Welcome back to Rise Plus Rebel Radio. I'm your host, Aya Hodja, and today's episode is dedicated to Mother's Day, but not in a surface level way. This is not just an episode about celebrating mothers. This is an episode about honoring lineage, womanhood, sacrifice, tenderness, complexity, and the quiet ways our mothers shape who we are and who we become. Whether you have a beautiful relationship with your mother, maybe it's a complicated one, whether your mother is still here, whether you are grieving her, becoming her, forgiving her, understanding her, or even learning how to mother yourself. This episode is for you. Because Mother's Day can be tender. It can be joyful. It can be painful. It can be all of it at once. And today, I want to create space for the full truth of all of that. For those who have been listening to my podcast, I just want to dedicate this moment of gratitude and just say how grateful I am for your presence here today and always. And I also just want to insert a side note that for those who have been listening to me and watching me, you'll notice that this episode is a little bit extra special in that this episode is only available in voice recording. It is not available in video format. I'm testing out a couple of things, and I thought on Mother's Day would be the perfect time to go ahead and test that. So if you have been listening to my podcast episodes, please let me know what your experience is like. I would love to gather as much feedback as possible, and all of your feedback is very, truly valuable and appreciated. So let's get to it. This is Rise Plus Rebel, a podcast for people who refuse to abandon themselves to fit this world. Here, we talk about solitude, authentic truth, power, money, creativity, and the quiet action that changes everything. This season is about reclaiming what was never meant to be outsourced. Your voice, your intuition, your timing, your authority. I'm Aya Hodja, commercial real estate advisor and the founder of Rise Plus Rebel, and your host. If you're navigating the journey of life, especially when it feels lonely, uncomfortable, or misunderstood, well then, you're in the right place. Let's begin. To me, Mother's Day is not just a commercial holiday. It is a moment to pause and reflect on the woman who gave us life, guidance, identity, survival skills, and emotional inheritance. As children, we often only see our mothers through the lens of what they gave us or didn't give us. But as we grow older, we start to see them as women, as individuals. These are women with dreams, fears, disappointments, courage, pain, and their own unfinished becoming and doing. And from my experience, something that I now understand about my mother that I couldn't understand as a child is that she, just like all of us, are all trying to figure it out. And I remember when I was a kid, I think I'd love to invite you to really reminiscent on the time of when you were a child looking up at your parents. Did you see them as somebody who was an authority, who actually knew what they were doing, right? Like we had to have some form of respect for our parents. And so for me, being that my parents were divorced at a really young age, I only had my mother to look up to. And so for me, I've always had this perception that my mom knew it all. She was wise and smart, and she is. And I remember I was around 6 or 7, 8 years old, where I remembered watching my mom step into entrepreneurship herself and being surrounded by her own clients. And she was this bit boss lady. So at a really young age, I was very much exposed to entrepreneurship. And I remember just thinking like, that's exactly what I want. But what I didn't necessarily understand until I became an adult is that struggle of being an immigrant in a different country. So when I was a child, looking up at my mom and her entrepreneurial spirit, this admiration, we were in Turkmenistan. My mom was a self-made entrepreneur. No one taught her of how to run a business. No one taught her how to be a successful professional businesswoman. This was all intuition, guided by her own inner voice. And from a child's perspective, my perspective, as a 6-year-old, 8-year-old, I saw it all come so easily to her. I thought this was a given. And I didn't understand until I became an adult, until I moved to America with my mom, until I witnessed and saw the sacrifices that she had made to have brought us here to America. Did I then, as an adult, realize that my mom doesn't have it all figured out. My mom doesn't have that rule book of like, oh, this is how you have to succeed as an immigrant. And so the first 10 years of America were brutal. And it was brutal in that I don't think any immigrant really comes to a foreign country to say, oh my gosh, being an immigrant is so easy. You know, the very first thing that many immigrants, especially 20, 30, 40 plus years ago, the main thing they did not have that many immigrants have now is this thing called technology, is this thing called digital dictionary, digital translator. So I was still under that generation that did not have that digital capacity to communicate with somebody from a different, like who did not speak the same language as I did. So that was very difficult. The first 10 years of trying to figure it all out, this was pre-technology days. It was difficult because not everybody was nice and kind and understanding towards your inability to speak their language. Majority of them were very rude and disrespectful, despite the fact it made us grow a thicker skin. There were many sacrifices that my mom had made to bring us to America. And this is not to create a sob story of like, well, you should have stayed back home. I'm very grateful for the sacrifices that she made that I did not fully appreciate until I became an adult, because it was the fact that she went through these hardships that it made me realize life is not easy. Life is what you make it out to be. And the more you choose the path of least resistance or the path of least walked on, things will have some forms of turbulence. Things will have some form of craziness that you just have to accept and use as tools of empowerment. So one of the emotional weights that mothers carry that often go unseen by kids is really this quiet, challenging moments of life that mothers don't really share with their children. And I'm pretty confident that you may have an experience, one or two yourself, where maybe your mother did something and she didn't share or she did not expand on. My mom had many of those, where one time I even just caught her crying at nighttime. And I was so confused because the reality that she created for me was beautiful, or at least her best. And from my perception as a child, I thought it was great. I had everything. I could never really complain that I did not have anything. And when I caught her crying, it finally dawned on me that she's hiding things. She's hiding the stress that is eating her up all night, all day from me, from her children, just so we can have a better life. So she was sacrificing her mental and creating this beautiful moment for her children, because that's something she did not receive when she was a child herself. And I think, at least from my experience, this is what I have seen as patterns among other people who recreate when they have kids. They tend to recreate an experience for their children, a better experience than what they had when they were going through their own childhood upbringing with their parents. Without going into further detail about my mom's background, but it was very opposite from my upbringing. Her childhood was much more turbulent. I think that would be the best word to use compared to mine. And it was not as loving. It was not a loving and healthy environment compared to my upbringing. And so I know, and this is something she has shared with me as well, is she did her best to give us the childhood that she never received. And I think many parents do that, at least the healthy ones. So there is a moment in a daughter's life when you really truly stop seeing your mother only as a mom and you start seeing the woman behind that role. And when that happens, something within you softens, something within you matures, and it humbles you. For me, I wish I could tell you who my mother was before she became my mother. Like I said, she had a very humbling upbringing pretty much her entire life. She did not have healthy parents. My grandmother My grandmother, my mom's mom, was very toxic. And in our Turkmen culture, usually when you're around 17 or 18, you're at that prime age of being sold off, also known as married to a family. And so my mom was forced to have gotten married at that time. And it was very challenging, right? Like, think about it. When you were a teenager, you're only just like now getting to know yourself, starting to understand your voice, trying to understand whether that is your voice or the voice of your parents or your guardians and vice versa. And here you are at 17, 18, being forced to marry somebody you clearly are not into, which I'm gonna leave that part for Father's Day. I think this would be a beautiful episode for Father's Day, so tune in for that. And that was my mother before she became my mother. She was married into an individual she was forced to marry. It wasn't somebody that she was like, yep, I pick you, I choose you, Pikachu. None of that. It was more of, this is the family we like. They have money, or somewhat, and go ahead, marry them. We choose this husband for you. So that's basically what happened, despite the fact that the family my mother married to did not really have much money. So she also had to kind of live in a very humble environment as well. Unfortunately for her, because she was already living in such a strenuous environment with her parents, being married felt more like a liberation because she no longer had to live in a toxic environment at home. And I wish, and hopefully one day I'll have my mom on to share her story. She's more of a writer rather than a speaker, but it was like moving from one hellhole to another hellhole for her. And as much as I want to say how much I love my father's side, I just can't, nor will I, because it was like I said, from one toxic environment to another. But at the time, because my mom didn't know any better, going into a new environment felt more liberating, and leaving the toxic environment she was coming from felt something more like freedom, despite the fact that it wasn't. The dreams she really had before life asked her to be strong is she just wanted freedom. And that's the thing in the Turkmen culture, is when you're a woman, you're being married off to somebody, to hopefully a healthy family. But the Turkmen men in our culture are very abusive and very entitled, in that as soon as they marry a woman, that woman becomes their property. Wildly enough to say, Turkmen men are unapologetic about hitting women in public. I even remember watching a video on social media where Turkmen man at his own wedding hit his bride in front of everybody. She must have done something to piss him off. She must have done something. It's not he should have been more patient. He should be in control of his emotions. It's not that. It was she. Let's blame her for her inability to maintain her husband's emotions. So that's the type of culture that I come from. That's the norm. And it was the norm, especially 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. More norm than now. Now that we have technology where women are liberating and speaking the truth about physical abuse and emotional abuse, men are starting to kind of somewhat chill out on that front, I hope. But that was the reality. And my mom was part of that reality. What I learned from watching her survive, adapt to that, is that there will be a moment in life where you will have enough. And I got to see that with my mom. It wasn't until I was 3 years old, and again, I witnessed that physical abuse firsthand with my mom and my dad, that I saw and experienced her really truly stepping into her power and saying, enough, I'm tired of this abuse. I thought I married into something healthy, and here clearly that was not the case. And so she put an end to that marriage, which I'm very grateful for as well. And so after all of that, I got to witness and experience her truly step into her power, truly step into her voice. What did that look like? It was very challenging, but she did such a great job that she inspired me to be who I am today, which is the inspiration of Rise plus Rebel, that we still experience this BS from the outside world, whether that's through friends, through partnerships, through parents, through family, through strangers even, and putting a stop to it, saying this is not right. We're not going to do this. And I'm grateful because pretty much all of my life I got to see my mom adapt. I got to see my mom rebuild, and I got to see my mom to keep going to finding peace within, but also finding and creating that peace in the external world as well. Because eventually you can only attract peace, respect, when you fully step into it and you embody that feeling. Otherwise, if you don't, people will walk all over you. People will walk all over you, which is again why Rise Plus Rebel exists, because we get to talk about these topics. We get to unravel and we get to normalize that this behavior is not okay. And the qualities of my mom's, they live inside me now, and that I get to talk about this. I get to talk about this specific topic. And the specific topic is that stepping into your power is a daily act of life, daily existence. We don't always want to talk about it. We don't always want to step into it. Heck, today is May 9th. It's the day before Mother's Day. I just came from my trip to Asia. I am on jet lag mode, and my whole body and the being of me was just like, I don't want to show up. I don't want to do this thing. I don't want to record, which is hence the reason why I'm doing a voice recording rather than a video. And then there's a part of me that says, no, you have to show up. This is for you. This is you, to you, from you, for the future you that will be grateful for, that the past you, the current version of you is doing. All of this is for you. These are the qualities that my mom gave me, in that, yeah, you will suffer a little bit here and there, but the outcome is greater than the suffering that you're going through right now. And so that has always been one of the qualities that I really loved and hate from my mom. Because who wants to suffer? Come on now. No one, right? But like my entire life with her, with that beautiful woman that I get to call my mom, as well as business partner, as well as best friend, is that we get to do this together. And a little bit of suffering is actually going to help you realize so many things that you did not get to see. It will help you reveal things that you were not able to actually see or be blinded to. But you won't be able to see it if you don't go through it. So one of the many things that she taught me without ever saying it out loud is just go through it. It's okay. You're gonna get through it. What does she teach me without ever saying it out loud? Life is life, and it comes in different shapes and sizes. That's all it is. Sometimes inheritance is not money or property. Sometimes inheritance is courage. Sometimes it's intuition. Sometimes it's the ability to walk into the unknown and still figure it out. And one of the things that I inherited from my mother emotionally, spiritually, culturally, and creatively is the embodiment of your truth. She was the first person who truly helped me understand what it was like to speak from the heart, to speak from your intuition, to do what feels right, to do what is right. So I inherited her strength, her resilience, her work ethic, and her stubbornness. I've definitely inherited her survival instincts, because I don't think people understand how challenging entrepreneurship is until they truly step into entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship, especially when you're still trying to figure things out, how to run a business, you have to have really strong survival instincts. And so that's one of many things that I inherited from my mom that I am very grateful for. And those are the parts that I see in myself, that resilience, that ability to just figure it out despite not having all of the resources. And I'm grateful for our technology because it truly empowers me to carry everything forward that she ingrained in me throughout my childhood. Maybe part of rising is really realizing what your mother gave you. And maybe part of rebelling is choosing what you will carry forward and what you will lovingly leave behind. Before we continue, I want to invite you to pause and think of one woman in your life, whether that's your mother, grandmother, aunt, sister, mentor, or even a version of yourself who helped shape who you are today. Send her this episode. Text her, call her, write her a message. Don't wait for the perfect moment to honor the people who made you stronger. And if this conversation speaks to you, join my inner circle at risewithaya.com, where I send reflections on what it's like to start becoming who you truly are, what it's like to create your identity, fully embody it. I talk about business, creativity, and the lessons life keeps teaching us day by day. Honoring your mother does not mean pretending everything was perfect. Love can be real, and it still can be complicated as well. And gratitude should and can exist alongside grief. And respect can exist with boundaries. And healing often begins when we stop demanding that people should be flawless or perfect before we acknowledge what they gave us. So for me, what makes mother-daughter relationships so powerful and also a bit complicated in that I get to have my mom, who has seen me grow up into this adult woman that I am. I get to call her my friend, truly. On top of that, I get to call her my business partner. And we are business partners now. We do both commercial and residential real estate. We chose to just partner up and lead a partnership advisory group within real estate. And not only that, she's also a business partner for Rise Plus Rebel merchandise and store that we are working on establishing and curating and growing together. And I find that to be super powerful because we get to do this together. What's challenging, sometimes can get super complicated, is that age difference, is that desire, because she's functioning from an older generation style and version, and I'm functioning from a millennial generation. And we have our own little battles almost daily. Not daily, that may be a push, but at least once a week where we disagree. And what I found in those moments of disagreement is it's okay to be right and it's okay to be wrong. And her truth is her truth versus my truth is my truth. That doesn't mean that one of us is wrong. We can both be right. When it gets complicated is when other people, external people, start meddling into our personal relationship between mother-daughter and saying, and this is why you are XYZ. Believe it or not, I've had an aspiring, unlicensed psychologist want-to-be tell me and my mom that this is the reason why I was single, is because my mom and I are that close. And again, this was unsolicited advice. Nobody asked her for this. She just grasped the opportunity to share her unsolicited advice. And I found that to be hilarious. Sometimes, again, it can get complicated because people will project their insecurities onto you. To me, I find my relationship with my mother to be very powerful, very admirable, and very influential. I love my mother to death, and majority of the people who actually have the privilege of knowing me know how much I love my mom and know how much I value my mom, period. And it's just hilarious to me how, again, some people just like to project their own versions of reality onto mine and think that that's my reality. Just had to laugh on that one. The thing that I love about myself as much as I love about my mother, because she's the reason why I think this way, and this is the reason why Rise Plus Rebel exists, in that my mom and I may have disagreements. My mom and I may not always agree on the same style, for example, a fashionable style. There were times when we were in Asia getting inspired by the clothing that we wanted to adapt into Rise Plus Rebel, and we both disagreed on each other's tastes. And there were moments where I was getting a little bit irritated, and I had to come back to myself and say, hey, this is why Rise Plus Rebel exists. You can be both. You don't have to be perfect. There is no such thing as perfection. That would be the name of the podcast. You decided to create something completely different. You decided to create Rise Plus Rebel. What does Rise Plus Rebel mean to you? It means that you get to create your own identity. And while you are getting to create your own identity. You're going to go through ups and downs. You're going to shift. You're going to morph. You're going to change your styles. You're going to change your thinking. So why can't both of you, mother and you, agree to disagree and have both? Why not? And let the people decide what identity speaks to them. And so that was the conversation, the inner dialogue I had to have with myself, because there were parts of me that were resisting and disagreeing with my mom's style. There are still parts where I'm still resisting of becoming like my mom. And those parts are really the parts of, well, just let it go. It's okay. Like, don't speak your truth. And that's one of the things that my mom taught me is it's okay to just let it go and not create fire. And this is a conversation I had with my mom right before we were leaving Asia. I said, Mom, the reason why I have fire within me is because that's the fire within me. It's placed for me for a reason. By you saying it's okay to just brush it off and walk it off and ignore it, it's like saying dim your light and don't honor your truth. My fire within me is me honoring the truth. My anger, my fury, my dissatisfaction is me honoring that light within me. So I rage, and I rage with elegance, but I will let the people who've pissed me off, let them know elegantly that they have pissed me off. And so that's one of the things that I am growing to embody more and more of, is that it's okay to have that fire. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be disappointed. In the society that thinks that being disrespectful and having horrible food made is wrong. It's okay to speak your truth and tell people that they're being wrong, they're being rude, that they're taking advantage of your niceness. It's okay to say these things. And you can say it the most elegant way possible. You don't have to just nod and walk away. Speak your truth. And so that's one of many things that I had to accept as I grew older, is that I was tired of walking away quietly. I was tired of walking away without speaking my truth. I was tired of walking away without the ability of telling the other person how I truly felt. So I learned to honor that fire within. And for somebody who's listening, who has a painful, complicated relationship with Mother's Day and just mothers in general, I want you to know that at some point, many of us realize we're not only daughters and sons. We are responsible for becoming the safe place we once needed as well. Like I mentioned, that I have deep love and respect for my mom. But one of the many things that I wish I had growing up was the acceptance of my anger. So my mom was not prepared to have an angry ball of fury as her daughter, as me. And she did not know how to hold space for an angry child. And so for a really long time growing up, I thought I had anger issues. I didn't realize that these were not angry. Like this was not anger issue. This was an emotion that was not been able to fully be held. My mom didn't know what to do with that emotion. My brother didn't either. It felt like two people against me, you know? And so I had to learn how to mother that part of myself. And I'm still learning how to mother that fire within me. And so for me, mothering myself really meant learning how to speak to myself with tenderness, how to protect that peace, not to overreact, how to also nourish my dreams, because many times my dreams came out of fury. Believe it or not, this podcast came about out of fury. It came about after I genuinely stopped abandoning myself just to be loved. So yeah, when you're a teenager, there's a lot of complicated emotions that you go through. And that's when I genuinely needed that nurturing, that protection, that softness, and that encouragement of like, hey, it's okay to be angry. Hey, that anger you're feeling is totally normal. And my inner child would love to hear on this Mother's Day that your mother loved you to the best of her capacity. All mothers do love their children. They might not be able to truly communicate that, unfortunately. But I do genuinely think once you have a child come out of your body, it's very difficult not to love them. And I'm pretty sure, and I'd love for my listeners, if you have a different opposite story that you would love to share, please reach out to me. Let's talk about it. Let's unpack that, because I genuinely do think that women who are mothers, some just are unable to really truly translate love in the proper loving way. But that does not mean that a mother does not love her child. I really don't. I think she may not know how to communicate, but that's just different. And so for that child, the younger version of you who needed that comfort, I'd love for you to really think about how could you become a safe home for yourself. For me, when I had my episodes of anger, what I would do is I would lock myself in a room. And living an immigrant life, I always lived in a very small apartment. So I never really had like a bedroom or a room to myself. That would have been a luxury, which I did not get until truly adulthood of, not going into detail there. But when I was growing up, living in a 1-bedroom apartment, I would just lock myself in a bathroom because that was the only place that I had some form of privacy. And if it was in the bathroom, it would be in a closet somewhere. So it was a very tight space. And I remember just being in the darkness and really, truly hugging myself and holding space for myself, holding space for my anger, holding space for injustice, because I just did not feel understood. I did not feel held. So that was my way of creating that safe home for myself. I think the greatest way to honor the woman who came before us may not be to shrink, obey, or live small. It's actually to become fully alive, to take what they gave us and build something freer, softer, braver, and more honest with it. For me, the kind of a woman I am becoming is the one that speaks her truth despite things being uncomfortable. One of many examples I can give to you right now is I'm not afraid of having an argument with my mom. I'm not afraid of arguments, period. It's not to say I create drama. Absolutely not. It's just, I'm not afraid of calling people out on their BS. It may not always work, mind you. You have been warned. It may not always work. But I don't mind speaking my truth, especially with my mother, because I know, despite the fact that we may argue, and this may cause an argument, after the argument, things do get better. Dust does settle. But before you create the dust, or before you create this rupture between your parent and yourself, one of the many things that I've been learning to do better is just learning how to deliver things without creating any rupture. Coming from a place of love rather than anger, coming from a place of understanding rather than attack. Because in the past, it would all come from a place of attack because I didn't know any better. So again, that's where that mothering yourself really comes into hand, because this is not something that was taught to me. So I had to learn, how do I do this without creating a scene? How do I deliver without offending the other person? Because that's not what this is. This is just coming from a place of, I'm not satisfied with XYZ. How can we make this better? The future generations, the things that I would love for people to inherit from me, one, it would be an honor if you did, is really just speak your mind, speak your truth, put yourself in uncomfortable situations if that means that you are actually honoring yourself and that you're honoring your voice. Because how often do we do this? We apologize for our own existence. So it really grinds my gears when I see a woman apologize for something she did not do. I'm sorry. For what? What are you apologizing for? For bumping into me in a crowded place? That's inevitable. It's going to happen anywhere. Why should you be apologizing? I see people apologizing just to ask for permission. Stop asking permission and stop apologizing to ask for permission. Stop shrinking yourself. Stop overthinking. Stop doubting. And the wisdom that I'd love to pass on to women is this. Instead of apologizing, say thank you. Instead, oh my God, I'm sorry for bumping into you. You could change that to, thank you so much for holding space for me while I'm grazing through the hall. I don't know, just make shit up, right? It could be funny. Why do we have to apologize for nothing? We don't. This is the kind of legacy I'm building through the work that I do, whether that's writing, whether that's podcasting, whether that's in real estate. I'm just constantly showing up, unapologetically me, and daily practicing the same patterns that I am working on ending. And one of the many things I want to do is stop asking for permission to just do whatever I want to do. Excuse me, it is my life and I get to live it how I want to. And that's how I get to honor my mother, by fully becoming myself. So this Mother's Day, I hope we don't just buy the flowers and write these beautiful, perfect captions that only will be read by like 1 or 10% of the people that follow us online. I really hope that we pause. I hope we ask better questions of ourselves, of our mothers. I hope we see our mothers, our grandmothers, our aunties, our mentors, and ourselves with more compassion. Because behind every strong woman is usually another woman who had to be strong first. And maybe today is not only about saying thank you. Maybe today is about recognizing the lineage of courage that lives inside us. If this episode touched you, share it with a woman that you love. And if you want to stay connected beyond the podcast, join my inner circle at risewithaya.com. That's where I share deeper reflections on identity, activity, business, womanhood, and becoming the full version of yourself. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And as always, rise when the world is quiet, rebel when your soul is loud. Until next time.